All right, so these first two are kind of related. I want to show you a little bit about how we kind of decouple data from our application. So we're going to make an app that's got so this is the router. Actually, I'm going to draw that different. So a request comes into the router. The router's job is to figure out which view to render. And the view's main job is to interact with the store. That's where all of our data action is going to happen. Hey, what's up, Ahmed? And to render components.
Stores use Vue.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
What's store?
So the store is Vuex. So let's make Vue create barkwire extreme. Oop. No. Let's see, VMUs 11. All right, there we go. All right, so I'm going to install router, Vuex, CSS preprocessor, and leave it at that. Yep. Cool.
Why can't you do capital letters in reactive Vue anymore?
What do you mean?
In like the creation of your project, it doesn't allow capital letters anymore.
Really?
Yeah.
That's a terrible idea, so I've never tried it.
I was thinking camel casing, instead of
Nope.
underscores.
Not for files. Files, underscores or dashes. Dashes is usually my preferred.
Now we got router X, SAS, that one.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so I've got this fresh project. And I'm going to npm serve it. Good. Oh, run serve. npm run serve. And let's fire up an editor. Okay, and it's on 8081. All right, so Barkwire is the dating app for dogs. So let's make that reflect. I'm going to get rid of all the boilerplate. All right, sick. All right, so I've got my Barkwire app. Your app.view, this is the case in React also, but we probably put too much stuff in here generally. Your app.view is your default view, and so absolutely everything in the application renders inside of this. The only stuff you should really put here is stuff that should render on every single page. So let's make a header and a footer. And we'll put a main area for everything to render inside. So how this works with router is I think of this as like you have a template and you're punching a hole through it. and then whatever like a route matches, it shows inside of that hole. And so we do that with router view. It's a built-in component, comes with router. So if we do that, anything that matches ends up showing up inside of that. So we look over at the router.
Is it convention in Vue to have lowercase component names? So I see that a lot.
You can do lowercase with dashes or Pascal case like you do in React. Either way. So if I get rid of some of this shit, just to clean this up, let's take a look at what it's doing. All right. So this is saying everything renders inside of app by default. We don't have to do anything special for that. It's saying if we're at the root, this route we're going to call it home, and we should render this home component inside of it. If the path it matches about, we call that about, and this is demonstrating how you can like dynamically do these. It's a performance thing. We could just as easily import about from there and then just make that about. Works the same way. But core idea here, this is figuring out, all right, that's the URL. That URL goes with this view. This other URL goes with this view. We're going to get rid of about, and we're going to call this index instead. And it's going to bark at us because we don't have an index. So I'm going to delete source views home. And while I'm at it, I can get rid of about also. I'm going to touch views index. Cool. And if I hop over to that index.view that I just made, kind of stub it out. It's going to have a template. It's going to have a script. And it's going to have a style. And in this template, we have to have one top-level component, top-level element. And I usually like to give it a class of whatever the name of the view is. And I'll usually use that to scope my styles also. You can, Vue has a built-in way to do that, but I don't think it actually works as well as they think it does. And then in here, welcome to Backwire. Cool. Rendering. So this is going to export an empty object for right now. Let's think about what's going to be on this page. Let's say that you have the app component, which renders the index view. That's going to render a dog list, and that's going to render dog cards. So to do this, I'm going to start by hard coding it. Red, green, refactor. All we got to do is keep it working. So I start here. Each one of these it's going to be the card. So we'll call this dog list. And we'll call each of these dog cards. And they're going to have a dog name and an image. So grab an image URL. Get this little pomo. And then make a couple copies of this. So those should all be showing up in the page. Perfect. So now all we have to do is make this dynamic. First step, let's turn those dog elements into data. So we'll say we have a dogs array, and each dog has a name and an image URL. And make a couple of those. All right, so now I have some dogs in state right now. First thing I do is I loop over them. So use a v4, say for dog and dogs, give it a key. So Kat was asking about this yesterday. It's a good question, or somebody was. The correct way to do this is with IDs. Throw IDs in here, that gives us something unique for each one of these. So we say dog.id. But let's say you don't have an ID. What you're looking for is whatever the unique thing would be. So in this case, maybe dog.name is unique. Or since this is just fucking JavaScript, we could also do something like a template string and do something like dog.id dash date.now or something to try to get a unique ID out of that. So we have options. If we don't have something coming back from the data, right now we'll say dog.id. All right, so now we can get rid of these hard-coded ones. And there's, still all Bixby. Oh, so we gotta actually use the template. Dog.name. Damon figured this out yesterday. We can't do like dog.image URL or something like that. You actually have to bind it if you're going to do it in the attribute. And then you don't use the curlies. Like that. And same thing with alt. Dog.name there. Cool thing, let's say I was passing a prop in to one of these, when you do the colon, you're saying I want to bind this. Oops. You're saying I want to bind whatever I'm passing in to this. And anytime you're doing that, you're like jumping into JavaScript. If you want to just pass in some fucking value, you don't have to put the colon in front of it. But then you're just passing in whatever text, just as is. Good thing to know. Okay, so now this data is dynamic. Yep, Damon.
Did you do something in your router to get the index to show up?
Yep. I imported it,
Gotcha.
and I said whenever that matches, that's what we're rendering.
Gotcha. And then that router view is just going to show whatever's on that current, whatever that current route is, whatever the component's supposed to be.
Mm-hmm.
Gotcha.
Exactly. And peep this. We do something like mounted, add a lifecycle hook in here. We actually have access to things like information about that route. So we can say this dot $ route. And check that out. Got access to all kinds of shit. And if there was like partials, like the ID or something like that, all that stuff's available here. Query string, all of it. All right, so we're rendering a list of dogs. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to do this in two different directions. So right now we have we've gotten from here to here. We ultimately want to move those dogs into the store, and we also want to break those out into some components. Let's start with the store. We haven't seen that yet. So I go over to the store, and we have 3 keys that kind of matter to us: state, mutations, and actions. I would describe them thusly. State is just like the data in the component, except it's stuff we want available all over the application. Actions are what we're going to call our external API. This is what views are allowed to call. They're allowed to call actions. Mutations are what actions are allowed to call. And we'll demonstrate that more later. But the fundamental difference, these have to be synchronous. Can't have any async shit in them. These can be either way. So we're actually going to keep that simpler and just say that anything in our actual application has to modify state by going through an action, even if all it does is call a mutation that does the same thing. To start with, let's just start by moving the dogs into state there. So we'll say dogs and if I pull the dogs that I had in state over here and just plop them into this, now I've loaded those up in my store. To access them in a view, what I'm going to do is make a computed hash and put dogs in here. And dogs is going to be equal to this $$store.state.dogs. And check this shit out. Oh, still working. Thing of beauty. So that's how we access the store component. Now, architecturally, you can do this from anywhere. Any component has this $store, and it can do whatever. And that's where the trouble starts. Really, like those store interactions, you pretty much just want those to be done by the view. That allows us to keep our components dumb, which is what we want. To wit, let's make our dog list component. So this is going to go into the components folder, and we'll call it doglist.vue. And if I pull up doglist.vue, I'm going to start by just copying all of index and then deleting everything that isn't the dog list. And then this isn't going to take in the dogs computed. This is going to take in dogs as a prop. It's looking for dogs, and it should be an array. All the template code stays exactly the same. And then instead of this, we are going to import in the dogs component, the dog list component, with @/components/dog list. And then we need to make that available in the template, which we do with adding a components hash to this and saying dog list. And now I can do dog list and pass in dogs, and it all still doesn't work. Oh, it's because that component, case sensitive. There we go. Pew, pew, pew. So we found the correct view. We looked up what we needed to look up in store. And then we passed that down to a component. Now, let's say that we're actually storing dogs on a server somewhere. So we don't get this hard-coded, we have to fetch it from something. Totally reasonable. So what we're going to do, we're just going to throw those into a JSON file, and we're going to fetch that. So I'm going to hop over to public. I'm going to touch dogs.json. And I'm going to take the all of these dogs, and we're going to throw it over here. Oops, no. Keys need to be double quoted, and so I'm going to make a quick macro. It's one of the neat things you can do in Vim. Type QQ, make that, and then go down. So now I can do 3@Q, baller, 3@Q, 3@Q. That is fucking cool. I made an on-the-fly macro. So what you do is you can just record a series of actions and then play those back. And so you can do things that are a lot more complicated, and these can be arbitrarily long. And so what I did is I went up to the next word, I added a quote to it, I went to the end of that word, added a quote to that, went back to the beginning of the line, and then went down a line. And then you save that, and then you can just play it back as many times as you want. Okay, so I have this JSON file now, and now I'm going to take these out of state. I'm going to initialize dogs to an empty array. Cool, now I have nothing. we're going to make an action called fetch dogs that runs fetch dogs.json, and then, actually, you know what I'll do? Check this shit out. We'll use async await. Say const response equals await fetch. Say const dogs equals await response.json. And every action starts by taking in an object that has a variety of different things you can do. There's only one that we care about right now, and it's commit. So we're going to destructure that out. And we'll say, all right, I want to commit these dogs to state. And so I'm going to say commit set dogs. Commit is going to look for a mutation with that first argument name. So we'll call that set dogs. And it takes in whatever the state currently is and then whatever you passed it. And all we need to do is make the state whatever we want it to be. So we're going to do state.dogs equals dogs. So we fetch the dogs, commit a mutation. That mutation sets the state, and that's how this updates. And every time that changes, the app re-renders. Now, to fire off that action back in our view, we're going to say, you can mount it or create it. Other one's fine. So this dot store dot dispatch fetch dogs. So dispatch is going to look for an action with this name. Dispatch and commit. Action, mutation. Now if I do that, yep, line 15, column 2. Oh, trailing comma. Probably because I need to destructure dogs out of this. So I'm going to go back over here and we'll say dogs. And there we go. Now we're back in business.
Hey, your index, did you have to import all this?
Yes.
So, well, I did that, components.
Mm-hmm.
For some reason Mark said it didn't. Oh, yeah. Gotcha.
Also, is there a reason why on my store it automatically updated my action to this document instead of just commit? So you have your store file.
Mm-hmm.
So you have commit on line 19. It auto updated mine to this document. It still works.
Oh, it's because it's just it's available on vuex.store. I think that's stupid. Like, I would rather this get destructured in, but I'm sure that works also. Also.
Can you hear your dog this way?
Yeah. Cool. Let's make this a dog card. So I'm going to make touch dot source. Oop, I get in the right folder. Touch source components dog card dot view. And now I'm going to take everything from my dog list and oops, make the dog list this, and it's going to take in a dog that's an object. Cool. So then over here, we're going to import dog card. From components, dog card. We're going to make it available in the template, like that. And then this becomes dog card. Dog is dog. And if we did that right, it still works.
I broke something in my index. Can I see a
Yeah.
passing prop?
Let's see what you got.
Nah, I know what it is. It's the quotes. I didn't do the, or not quotes, sorry, the colon.
Gotcha. Yeah, if I leave the colon off of this, dogs is still available, except now it's a string dogs.
Yeah. Still not seeing anything though. Still, it was telling me it was my prop. Like I'm a prop on the dog list. So it should be
store.state.dogs. Okay.
and dog list should be this.
Yep.
And store is
Fetch dogs. Yep. Yep.
and dog JSON was here, right?
No, it's in public.
Ah, gotcha. So I couldn't see it.
Gotta check that network tab. What are you, a student?
I forgot about that. We weren't doing a fetch across the network. I wasn't even thinking about it. Nope, that didn't do
Dog
it.
list and then dog card.
That didn't do it for me.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know what happened.
My error was in my dog card, I didn't switch dogs to dog.
Well, it's not dark card yet. I'm still, my list is like just not showing.
Let me see your network tab.
What's your dog card? Oh wait, yes.
Are you triggering the fetch
Uh,
over to your index view? Yeah, that's it. So you actually have to dispatch the action.
Okay, where'd you code it?
That looks like this.
It's a mount. Yeah.
You need to create it too.
I just typed slow. I missed all that. Missed that board.
I'm getting a ton of warnings. It's working, but I'm gonna lose it.
Yeah, I was getting some weird warnings too. I'm doing.
Alright, so let's steal this first one. First of all, refresh and make sure that these aren't stale.
Gotcha. Yep, here's some. There you go. Thanks. Alright. That was too soon.
Favorite kind of problem.
Yeah.
How you doing, Kat?
Got it.
Excellent. So now we've got dog coming into dog card. All's right with the world.
So then, the reason that we can do the pass down dog as an object is that because of the V4, because it's moving.
Correct.
That's fucking.
Because it's an array of objects, and so
Yeah.
each one is going to be that object. URL matched to this view. View rendered a component hierarchy. It also is interacting with the store on our behalf. Because we can also, in that dog list, this is like, I see React devs do this shit all the time, and I don't like it. let's see here. This, like all of this stuff, we could throw all of that in dog list directly instead of passing that down. That's how you spaghetti the fuck out of your state management. Because the way that dog list works right now, simple. It doesn't know or care where dogs come from. All it cares is that it gets past them. That's so much easier to debug, troubleshoot, all that kind of shit, than if everything is allowed to like make its own network calls and modify the store and all that kind of shit.
So if you had like 3 components that were all doing fetch calls to different APIs,
Mhm.
you would do it all at the top, but you do it all in index.view, and
Mhm.
just pass it all down.
Yep.
As opposed to like each time, each one of those renders.
Correct. All right, so Damon wanted to see what bubbling up some actions would look like.
I'm not gonna lie, mine's still broke.
Oh.
I'm not getting an error, I just don't know what that
Okay,
is.
that's fine.
Or I
Check
might
it
be
out.
actually, let's see.
Try doing styling.
Yeah, response to JSON about it.
That's because
Try to
Jason's
go max with the dog card, so I got some giant dog.
This?
There's a huge dog over here.
But when you find the face, it's
Like
really.
this?
Yeah, right? You're like, oh my god.
Wait, no, it's not.
Yeah.
The max width isn't doing anything.
So this is response, not the,
Oh, you have to await the fetch,
not the response.
but you have to wait both of them.
Both.
Both of them are promises.
Can you do the image directly?
There we go. The basics, huh?
Oh, you're right. Change the dog card, not the. Figure out.
All right, so Damon wanted to see what it looks like when we bubble up some events. So over in this dog card, if I click on the name, I want to like turn this into a selected dog or something. So to do that, I'm going to go over to this element and at click, call that select dog. And then we're going to add a method called select dog. And we're going to do this dot $ emit select dog, and then we're going to pass up this dot dog. This isn't the only way we could have done this, but I think it demonstrates the bubbling really well. The other way that would have been totally appropriate to do this with is we could like add a click listener directly on this component, which you can't do in React. It's wild. We could add an on-click handler to this, and we have access to dog here also. But in this case, we want it to only be if they select or click on the H3, not if they click on the image. So start bubbling that up. Another thing worth noting, this is another thing I think is a little dangerous in Vue that they let you do this, but you can also do like $ emit select dog. You can also do that. You can just do it in line. This just takes arbitrary JavaScript, which is probably a bad idea. All right, so now whenever that happens, this emit is going to make the dog card component fire off an event. So if I say, cool, the dog card takes in a dog and it passes up select dog, then I can say, let's give it console log and see what happens. Oh, that's not going to work. All right, I'm going to make a method here then it's also called select dog. And we'll console log the dog that we get passed. All right, so when I click on one of these names, it bubbled. and I get a viewified version of the dog that I got sent. So what happened here is we passed this data down from the view to the component again. And what this did is fire off an event that this is listening for. And what we're going to do is keep bubbling that. We're going to send that up to the view now also. So we'll say this dot $emit. Select dog. Just like we did in the other one. And that's going to make dog list fire off that event. So over here on dog list, we pass down dogs and we listen for select dog. And so we'll call that in our view. All right, so let's see if the dog made it all the way up to the view. So I click here, it's alive, and there's old Bixby. Okay, here's where this gets cool. So we have passed down dogs, and then this is responsible for like all these little dog components. They're firing up an action here. We fired up an action here. Now the view gets to like set the store with that. Any guesses how we do that? There we go. That's one of the reasons we want to keep these views as like logic free as possible. Is their main function is these store interactions. So we'll call this set selected dog. How about? So we don't want them to have to do a bunch of other shit also. All right, so it's dispatching the set selected dog action. And then over in the store, we're going to make an action for that. Set selected dog. And just like before, we're going to destructure commit out of that. And we're also, as a second argument, going to take in dog. And then we're going to just commit set selected dog and give it dog. And then this is going to be set selected dog, takes in state and a dog. I was going to say state.selected dog equals dog. And then we have to have something to default it to. Cool. So to see if this worked, we're going to use the Vue CLI tools, or the Vue, browser tools. If I hop over to Vue and I look on the clock, this shows me that right now I have 3 dogs in state and an empty object for selected dog. Now, if I click this, I should see that change. Select the dog. It's in state now. Also, this is keeping track of every mutation that happens. We can look at different states of the application. It's pretty cool. All right, so that makes it to state. Now, how about I do something like make a featured dog component? That's going to be like this guy over here. And if there's a dog selected, that component renders. We'll do something like touch source components featured dog.view. And over in featured dog, say template. And this will just say the dog of the month is dog.name. And the script for this will be export default. This is going to look for a prop called dog that's an object. And then that featured dog component, I'm going to pull that into the index. So I need to import it. Make it available, and then featured dog, and then dog is selected dog. Selected dog, I need to look that up. So that's going to be a computed property. This.store.state.selected dog. And so I should see like dog of the month with like undefined or null or some shit. Yeah, like that. So now what I can do is just conditionally render it. Like v if selected dog. Now if I do this, it's still going to show up there. Why? If I do vf selected dog, there's no dog there.
Empty object, right?
Empty object, and empty objects are truthy. So I could do something like if selected dog.name. And then it's not there. And now if I click on Bixby, well, that's something. Hold on. There we go. Dog of the month is Bixby. Nothing? Bixby's the dog of the month. Click on that. Mesa's the dog of the month. So, we looked that up, these green arrows. We used that to dispatch an action to the store. We committed the mutation. Store got updated. This got conditionally rendered with that information that the Vue pulled down from the store. That is probably like 80% of Vue architecture is what we just did. As they get bigger, there's strategies for breaking out your store into modules. So like I might have a dogs module and I might have a owners module, and all of my different models I might put in a different module. Each one of them has actions, mutations, state. It's just a way to keep those organized.
Can I see you dispatch the dog up?
Yeah.
You put that in.
Yep.
Why do you give it a name? That name there that you gave me is the function? Is that selected up?
Yeah, that's the action that it's going to look for.
Tell you what action.
Correct. And so it's going to match with that.
I have a problem with my appendix there.
Mm-hmm.
For some reason, I couldn't get it to console log from dog target dog list. I don't know if it's in the same way. The government method, select dog.
I know that.
Good. And then select dog. It's that dog.
Good.
And here, it's the prop. And then select dog list. This is just select dog.
Good. 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 Good.
And then it's console log. The dog is here.
Okay.
Did you put it on the image of the header?
Ah, okay. So I didn't put it on anything up here.
Okay, there we go.
That's why.
Something needs to call that.
Gotcha. That's what I was wondering about. So what if I just prompted it itself?
Yeah, I can do that.
Like select dog,
Nope.
or it's
What event do you want to trigger that?
click
Yes.
equals select dog.
There we go.
There we go. Now go on trigger. And then action type set selected dog. That's it. Set selected dog and send the string.
Should be.
Set selected.
Go.
That'll open that up. There we go. Awesome. Thank you.
What you got?
I got all this, but my dog is not changing.
Okay.
Or maybe my if statement's broken. One or two. Let me go back here. Yeah, my dog's not changing. Oh, well, select the dog.
Yeah.
I know what I did. So that's select the dog. Oh yeah, what I put this. Cool.
All right. Let me see your conditional.
I need a colon in front of this.
And here.
Oh, yeah. Name of that.
Okay. Back to your code. So you're calling that dog. Okay, so dog is always there. So you want a conditional off of like dog.name or something like that. Something it might not have. There we
I
go.
thought I had to have null at first. No, let me go back to my story. Yeah, I gotta have null.
It should be an empty object because you want to be the same data type.
Gotcha. So even though it was null, it wasn't.
Yeah, I don't know why that was.
Yeah. That's weird.
There you go.
Yeah, cool.
Awesome. So one last thing before we break. Kat was curious about protected routes. Protected routes view. All right. So what we're going to do is in the router. Everything else. We're going to say router.before each, and then this takes in a function that has to, from, and next. So the way this is typically done is kind of ghetto, in my opinion, but you do like if statements and stuff. And every time you navigate from one route to another, this thing runs. And you get a chance to look at where you're going, where you're coming from, and next is a function. Whenever you call that, it actually does the navigation. But you get an opportunity to like block that basically. And you can pass other routes into next if you want to send them somewhere else. So let's say I make another route. And this one's going to be called protected. This one, oops, no slash on that. It's called protected. And the component's going to be called protected, and that's a view also because we're routing to it. And I'm going to make source views protected.view. And all that's going to be in there is the template. We don't actually need everything in there if we're not doing anything with them. We'll say, I'm a secret. And cool, so that should, okay. So now I need to have something that tries to navigate to that. So in my, I'll put this in my app.view. Our header is also going to have a nav. And the way that you do a link with Vue Router is router-link. There's actually a couple different ways you can do this. If I just do 2 equals whatever, I can do google.com. It'll just give me a URL. Oh, shoot, that's right. This is kind of like an anchor tag. It literally turns into an anchor tag. So you see a secret. And, oops. Huh, I don't know why that won't let me navigate out. Oh, if you're actually navigating outside of the app, you just use a regular anchor tag. But if I had a specific thing I was going to, like /dogs or something, there it goes. Takes me to 8081/dogs. This is the cool part though. If I bind that, instead of a string, I can give it an object. And this is like my favorite part of Vue Router. I can say, I want to go to the route that's named this. That is so much more declarative than going to a specific URL. So I want to go to the route that's named protected. I don't give a shit what the path for it is. Just take me to that one. And since this is named protected, that'll match all of this. All right, so now if I do that, it should, cool, I'm a secret. If I want to protect against that, maybe I have like a const is logged in, is logged in equals false. And let's take a look at what's happening in each of these. To, from, leave next one. What doesn't like here? Signed a value but never used. Yeah, who gives a shit? Is logged in. It's not compile error. All right, so on this one, I'm going to this route. I came from this route, same one. Now if I go over here, pow, says I'm not logged in. It has, I'm going to the protected route and I'm coming from the index route. So I could say something like, if to.name equals protected, and then do something like if not is logged in, maybe this is a next back to the root, so it won't let me in. Let's see what that is. All right, so I go here. Oop, let me do the navigation.
You want to not put it in this one?
No, this is like a redirect, I think. Let's see how next works. Yeah, you're passing a string. Oh, it keeps, I see. I think I have to do it like this. Let's see. There we go. So I'm gonna click on it, won't let me go there. Yep.
My router doesn't like when I have it before Ethernet for some reason. You know what I love you?
No.
My before each, if it's not in here, it'll render my stuff still. Okay. But once this comes in, I'm not seeing it. And mine looks a little different.
It's because you also need you need else for the next. Every single time you navigate to anything in the app, this runs, including that initial load. This lets it just go through as planned.
I switched these logged into true and it still won't let me in.
Let's see. Oh, you probably need the else for that too.
Oh, okay.
And there's a better way to do that. So, all right, I want to see a secret. I'm logged in now, and it takes me there. I am not logged in, and it kicks me. It should kick me out. Cool. Won't let me go. Does yours look like mine? You could probably clean that up with some ternaries too. There we go. Is logged in false, is logged in true. It takes me. Cool. Questions do you have?
If you want to get this logged in from state, you can
Mm.
do something.
So, that's a good question. You probably need to, let's see. View router access store. Not in before enter. you just import it. Yeah, so we'll do like import store from at store. That's what it looks like, right? Touch. Yep. And then if I is logged in false, and then this becomes store.state.is logged in. And it blocks it. Now if I change it to is logged in true, it doesn't block it anymore. And so I can make a button over here that's like toggle log in. Yeah, toggle login. And make that like is logged in, and then over I make a script. And export default methods, and I need a computed is logged in is this dot store dot state dot is logged in, and call this toggle login, and it dispatches a toggle login action that fires on click. Toggle login. Then over in the store, I'm making action for toggle login that all it does is commit toggle login. Call this one toggle login, and it takes in the state. I say state.isLoggedIn equals opposite of whatever it currently is. And if I did all that right, all right, there, pew, pew, pew. Okay, so that toggles the login. So if I'm, oops, that's supposed to be backwards. Yep. Uh-oh. Oh, no, that's right. Okay, so that's blocking. That's what I was worried about. All right, it's not dynamically updating. I wonder if I might need to use a getter actually. Hang on. If I make a getter, is logged in state return state dot is logged in. Oh no, doy. It needs to be in that call, otherwise it only gets set once. All right, let's try that. Cool, not logged in, it's blocking. I log in, lets me go. There we go. Logged out. No! Logged in.
Is that last change?
Like having this variable be determined when the route change happens, otherwise it just gets statically set the one time. Cool. All right, we're late. Gotta send that survey. Thank you.